Louder, folks. Give them a round of applause. Thank you so much. If you were here last year, and if you weren't here last year, I'm about to give you a quick rundown. My panels are very much free-flowing in the sense of a group of friends getting together and having the chats, which is essentially what our onboarding call was. And the way that I want to do this is pass the floor over to, the mic over to each panelist to introduce themselves, because I could read out a bio. However, I think this space is there for all of us to flex and show all the things that we're working on, that we're, the labels that we take as well. And I think sometimes we need to take more of that space to show all of our wonderful gifts and talents. So in no particular order, actually, I'm gonna switch it over. Laura, I'm gonna give it over to you,
Hello.
please.
Hi, can you guys hear me? Yeah. How's everybody doing?
You!
Yeah? Okay. First of all, I want to say a big thank you to GORM Media for having me today. I was here last year attending, and now to be here as a speaker is so heartwarming. So thank you so much. My name is Laura. Laura Twagirayezu. I'm from Rwanda, East Africa. I am a multifaceted individual, so I curate contemporary African art, I DJ, I work a full-time job, I also model. But I'm gonna backtrack and tell you a little bit more as to how I came to be all these things at once. I moved here 5 years ago for my master's, which was a one-year program. Then I started working. My background was mainly in nonprofit. So I was working for a local nonprofit supporting migrant communities to settle into Ireland through a wide range of programs. And then I did a workshop to learn how to DJ. It was a free workshop organized by female and non-binary DJs here in Dublin, Skin and Blister, shout out to them. And so I started DJing 2 years after getting here, which is what really platformed me and opened the doors for me to get into the creative scene and meet more artists and a bunch of other people. And then I did a hard pivot from the nonprofit work to tech. And it's important to note this because, it's through the tech work that I was able to become much more financially stable, and then proceed to start my nomadic gallery, which is Umutima, that I started last year. So I run this nomadic gallery where I showcase contemporary art, screen films, host panel discussions, Ayesha knows, and a wide range of things, but in the art context. And then I also model. I think that's a bit of a detailed background. Yeah, that's me.
Thank you.
Are we going like this?
Might as well.
Can you hear me? Hi. Thank you, Ayesha, for this, and thank you, GORM, for organizing this. I'm really happy to be here. My name is Subhashini Goda. I think I took off my tag, sorry. My name is Subhashini. You can call me Subha. I am a dance artist from the south of India. I'm from Chennai. I moved here towards the end of 2021 for a PhD in dance anthropology. It's done now, so I'm going back to full-time dancing, but I'm also interested in the processes that go towards changing contexts in dance, and that's what my research and my dance is all about. I do a bit of poetry, but I don't really talk about it much. Right now, I'm RORED's Intercultural Artist Network Coordinator. I'm mentioning this here, especially because if any of you belong to South Dublin County, please come join us. So we'd love to see you all there. So that's a bit about me.
You!
Hello. Hi, good afternoon, everyone. Jesus. I don't know how to hype myself up. I need to do it more. Okay.
Let's do it.
You!
There we go.
Thank you. The funny thing is I perform on stage and I'm never nervous. And then I talk and then I'm shaking. That's weird. My name is Favour Odusola, aka Official Pack. I moved here 2020, January, from Nigeria. I am a dancer. That's it, nothing else. That's literally it. I studied, I had my master's here in marketing, and then I'm gonna do like you, Laura. I'm gonna go walk it, because it's easier. And 2021, so before I moved here, I studied theater arts, worked in a dance company for 4 years, performing, touring, traveling with many artists, which you guys know. and she said we should hype ourselves up. So most Afro artists, Davido, Wizkid, Tiwa Savage, all of them performed, toured with them. And I moved here, studied my master's, and then started working with different dance companies and organizations such as the Irish Modern Dance Theatre, Project at Center, and so forth, teaching, performing on stage, dancing, and all of that. And then in 2022, I co-founded my dance company called Umakoko with my partner, Victoria Escobar, and basically the company works towards providing dance services to different sectors all across the business industry. And since then, we've worked with various brands from Google to Central Bank of Ireland, Accenture, HubSpot, so many other ones. The same 2022, we looked at the dance industry and kind of realized that certain dancers were not given the spotlight to showcase their art, because if you know Ireland's dance industry very well, the contemporary is what's, it's more open. But when you look at the commercial and when you look at other styles of dance, there wasn't a platform, there wasn't a space for these dancers to actually put up their work, showcase their work, and actually show who they are. So in 2022, we started a dance show called Wave, which actually happens in this building on the 6th of December. Get your tickets. And basically, since 2022, we've been running it every year to showcase diverse dance acts, diverse artists all over Ireland. This will be our 4th year. It will be the most we'll have, because I think we're having 20 artists, which is amazing. And then in 2023, same thing. Now my background is Afro dance, and in Afro dance, there were not enough training structures. So we started the Jiva Afro Dance Festival. 4 people that would like to learn how to dance, and 4 people that were already dancing. And this year we had our third year as well. And yeah, so that's just, there are other things, but yeah, I think the reason why I mentioned that is because of how relevant it is to the conversation today. So thank you.
Also, Umakoko were the performers last year, if you were here last year.
Yeah, they I wasn't there, but they performed last year as well. So I'm happy to be here for the first time.
My go. So first of all, yeah, thank you very much for having me here as well. It's amazing, and it's been amazing meeting so many brilliant people so far today. I'm really looking forward to the networking. I was going to say that I have become the thing I feared most in my 20s, which was a jack of all trades and a master of none. But then Laura said multifaceted, and I was like, that's a way better description of what I am. I've been working in production for over 25 years, and I think if I had to pick something that was unusual about my background, it's that half of that time has been spent working in programming and broadcast, and half of it's been spent working in commercials. And those two worlds are actually really siloed, and I'm in a privileged position now where I kind of have knowledge of both, and I bring them together on a daily basis. I guess I'd best describe myself as probably an executive producer, or as I said to Ayesha during the week, like rather than being an artist per se, I'm a facilitator. I try and bring teams together, try and join the dots to make projects happen. I got to that point because I figured along the last 25 years that in the creative bits I wasn't very good at operating cameras or directing, or there was people far better, and I was able to recognize hopefully that talent and facilitate doing that. Currently, I am director of content in Fuel, and Fuel would be known more as maybe an events company, an employee experience, but actually it's one of the most diverse platforms that I've had to work off, and in terms of the range of projects that I get to work on at the moment, like I am currently we're in pre-production on a documentary on Ukraine. I was over there last week for a week. I'm working on some television format projects, working directly with corporate clients. And what's amazing about having a big team from different backgrounds, and this is, I suppose, what we'll get into in terms of the importance of diversity, is that now when I think about TV programs, it's not just like, here's a project or a documentary. It's like, what's an experiential thing that can sit on the side of that? How can we make people, they can see it on the screen, but how can they walk through it? How can they live it and feel it? And it becomes a much bigger creative project. So yeah, that's me in a nutshell. I'll stop waffling now.
Thank you so much. I think it's really important to note that pretty much everyone on this panel I have worked in not just a singular, but multiple projects in different shapes, ways, and forms, and it's really, really lovely to have you here for the panel. So let's talk about creative interference, and I think I want to start off with a general question that is open for any of you to answer, and I think this will just whet the appetite while we go deeper into the stuff. I know we're limited on time, but I do also want to say, everyone's in the space today, so if there's something that resonates with you, find these people afterwards. Ideally not in the middle of while they're just stuffing their face with a samosa, but have those conversations, follow up, make those connections, because I think there's wisdom and insights over here that are meant to be gifted to us today. So be present, ask those questions, and we're here to have those chats. Okay, so each of you uses art as resistance, whether that's through film, dance, curation, or community building. What does creative interference look like for you in your medium?
We'll all look at Laura.
Yeah.
Okay.
I can go specific more into it, so Laura, I'll start with you. So you've built Mutima as a nomadic gallery to platform contemporary African art in spaces when it's often absent. What barriers or what learnings have you encountered in bringing this art into Irish mainstream spaces, and what does true visibility look like for you?
It's a hard question.
We're here for the hard questions.
I think interference is such a broad thing. The main reason that I do what I do is because I go to galleries all the time. I go to museums all the time, and there's rarely ever art that I can relate with. I think it was Marcelo, oh, that sounds better. I think it was Marcelo who said that you can see someone but not relate to them. And so I see a lot of art, but I relate to maybe one piece or two. And so I don't really use that language with my work. I don't really say that it's resistance nor interference. Ayesha knows we were on a panel together where I was saying live art as resistance, and I was having a hard time using that lingo because for me, art is an extension of life. It is an expression of life too. And so art is everywhere, and people from everywhere are creating art. However, in Ireland, the art that is exhibited does not reflect the people. So it's less of an interference for me and more so of an injection. It's more so about really making it more robust, a robust experience for everybody. And the biggest barrier is awareness. I often tell people, oh, I just came from the museum. They're like, oh, wow, you must be so rich. I said, it's free, guys. Guys, there is, I think, billions of euros that the Art Council spends on museums and galleries on an annual basis. And these are your these are your tax euros. But the Black community and most people of color in Ireland don't know this. So the first time I organized an exhibition, there was more than 2 people who told me they'd never been to an exhibition, let alone an exhibition that was showcasing art that they could relate to, art created by people who look like them, who have similar lived experiences. So my barriers are awareness, my barriers are cultural norms, you know, whether you grew up here, whether you're new in this country, attending art galleries and museums or just going to watch an African film or a film from India at the IFI is not the norm. So my work really is so broad in that sense that I want to make sure that the artists are being compensated, that their art is being showcased. I want to make sure that the people who look like them and live similar lives know about their art. I want the institutions in the middle to provide the funds and the resources for everybody to have this experience the way that everybody else, as in white Irish people who grew up with this culture. So there's a lot of barriers, there's a lot of interference. For better and for worse, I'm the only person who solely focuses on showcasing contemporary African art. There's a lot of art curators of color, there's a lot of artists of color, but I'm a curator. I don't make art. My job is to create these experiences. So for better and for worse, better as in yay, it's happening, worse, galleries don't really give me a space. I have to rent out spaces. So far, my favorite galleries are corporate offices because they'll give me their office for a day, for a month. They'll give me the capital. And I think it ties into the DEI piece. You know, this is usually around Black History Month. This is usually around Africa Day. So yay, interference through Mitima, if I can say.
Thank you so much.
My pleasure, thank you.
I'll throw a question to Steven. I have quite a few questions, but. So you've worked across commercial and creative industries, from agencies to film. How do you balance brand narratives and authentic representation? What does authentic representation mean? Especially when DEI is treated as a checkbox. Can commercial storytelling ever truly be decolonized?
It is treated as a checkbox, but I think within the production community, it's not. I hope. It's DEI, and you know, from a creative perspective, isn't a nice to have. It's critical. Like it's of all industries, creative industry cannot survive without it. Like if I get into a room with 3 people who come from the exact same background as me, and we bash our heads together on ideas all day, it's an echo chamber. You know, it's just not going to create anything and I do think brands are starting to tap into that, because the advertising landscape in terms of how advertising is delivered is a little more stealthy. It's not linear like it used to be, in so much as we're not sitting down and watching television and the ad break comes on and you know, you can go and make a cup of tea, or you have to watch the ad. Now they have to interject themselves in our lives in culturally relevant ways, and audiences, they've begun to realize, are actually very smart. They sniff out things that aren't authentic very quickly. So it's imperative that diversity from a creative perspective and an agency perspective is embraced, because there is no way to push it creatively or to get to the end goal. I mean, not to quote a white billionaire, but
Please do.
Steve Jobs did some good stuff. But he had this great quote that I always loved, which is, creativity is just connecting things, which is basically what he was saying was creativity doesn't happen in a vacuum. Creativity comes from broad experience, and it cannot happen in its purest form without that. So I'm not saying anyone is anywhere near being there yet, but there is definitely becoming more of an awareness towards that as a necessity. And I think if you look at something like, so drama is huge at the moment, and I think it would be fair to say, if you look at like the biggest writers' rooms in the States, where you have a showrunner and they're curating their writers' room depending on what the drama is, like one of the top ingredients is making sure you have diversity in terms of background, because they understand you cannot tell an authentic story without that experience. I hope that answers.
It does. Thank you so much, Steven. What I keep hearing is awareness. This is the second time, so I'm curious to see if it's going to come up again. I will pass this over to Subha. Subha, your work interrogates how Bharatanatyam, a classic Indian dance form, reproduces caste, class, and gender hierarchies. How do you navigate the tension between preserving tradition and transforming it to be more inclusive and decolonial?
Thank you for that. I'm always happy to hear the word caste thrown into a conversation when it comes to Bharatanatyam. Also because almost nobody talks about it. For a bit of a background, I don't know how many of you are familiar with Bharatanatyam as a dance form. So it's from the south of India, from the town that I'm from, Tamil Nadu, the state that I'm from. And the city that I'm from, specifically Chennai, became the cultural capital of that particular dance form after the independence and after a whole revival and reform movement, which is incredibly problematic because this dance form used to be performed in, can you guys hear me?
Yeah.
All right, okay. Because I usually don't have mics, so I'm very wary of this. Anyway, so it used to be practiced in the temples by a very particular group of women who were I'd like to say they were powerful, but they were still under the power of the temples and the people who patronize the temples and the kings and the courts. So the dance form during the independence movement was, for the want of a better word, violently snatched away from those women and was given to other groups of people, particularly the upper caste community in the country. And now most of the practitioners, including myself, we don't come from that community anymore. So that community is still largely underrepresented in the arts, especially in the city I'm from. And outside India, almost nobody has this conversation at all, because when they see Bharatanatyam, all they see is this Indian dance form, and they think it's pretty. They come up to me, they say, oh, this gesture is so pretty, can you teach me how to do the gestures? But they never really want to go beyond that and have that conversation around the awareness of that political and historical perspective. So usually when I talk about it, this is how I introduce it. This is my part in playing that decolonization. I don't really know if it can even be decolonized anymore. Sometimes I do have those doubts, because I think especially between 1950 and 1990, there's been so much change that's happened, and a lot of those women have passed on without passing their knowledge on to others. So there is very little transmission that's taken place. There are very specific communities that are still doing, but they have had to transform their own forms as well to suit the modern age, to suit the stage that they're practicing in. They don't dance in temples anymore. So I'm very conscious of bringing that historical perspective and talking about it every time I talk about the dance form, and saying that this is not my form at the end of the day. I have that responsibility to mention that. Inclusive, the biggest issue I've faced, especially since I moved to Ireland, is, and I did not think this was something that I was going to face. I thought everybody would be familiar with it to some extent. But the first time I was in a dance costume, somebody walked up to me and said, "Are you a belly dance teacher?" And I was like,
Pause.
Oriental, sure, but not belly dance. So I realized that I had to dumb down the form a lot when I had to start lessons or when I had to give workshops. So when I try to make it inclusive, I start from a very secular space of not talking about the religion at all, but giving them that background that it used to be steeped in religion. Because if I'd still made it religious, I'm sort of pushing out a whole sector of people out of the form. The form right now, as it's practiced, is very heterosexual as well. It's very gendered in its content. So I'm always trying to see how we can sort of step out of that as well. And those are the contributions I'm trying to bring to it. And I'm sure there are other dancers as well who go through this very similar processes in your own forms as well. I'm sure Irish dance has had a similar movement after nationalism. I'm sure any post-colonial country has gone through such issues, be it in Asia or Africa or anywhere. So yeah, if that answers the question.
It does. Thank you so much, Subha. I know we're limited on time, but I will put a question forward for Favour as well, and then we will take probably one or two, if we have time, questions from or reflections from the audience. But before we do, Favour, the question for you. In Afro dance and your experience in theater, movement often becomes protest. Can you share a moment where your body became a site of resistance, or more importantly, healing in performance? And the reason why I ask this is resistance is always seen as something hardened, something external, even though it is internal as well. But I want to also try and see how resistance can be something that can be used as a tool for healing and also joy.
No. There,
Say it.
so the thing with Afro dance is, and especially in this part of the world, by that I mean Europe and America and all of that, right? If you've paid attention or if you see where people talk about it, there's always been this, I would say, discussion, not argument, about what Afro dance is, what it's meant to be, and who are the guardians or who are the people to teach
Yep.
it or spread it, and situations where you have the wrong people, teaching it, or, especially with social media now, everybody posts themselves teaching Afro dance online, and a lot of it is it's not really right information; it's the wrong information. So the past few years, there've been a lot of conversations online about how the only way you should be able to learn this or know about this style is by certain people, and the only way you can find those certain people is by researching, and people don't research, and that's an issue in itself. And for me personally, I come from a performance background, so I did the traditional Nigerian style, because I'm Yoruba, so I did a lot of traditional training before I went into the commercial world. And I think one way where I can answer that question is basically when I moved here, it was very important that when okay, this is why I kept saying 3 times. So Afro dance, the big term, right, which really encompasses different dance styles from different countries in Africa. There's the traditional and there's the modern, right? And right now, what you see online is a lot of the modern, which is the street styles, which all evolved from traditional sectors. Me personally, I'm a fusion of both. And you don't really find a lot of artists that are not just traditional and modern, but are also in theater and also in performance and also on stage and also teaching. It's kind of, it's a one-off, I believe, because the way we did it growing up is you have to learn all these things because that's what makes up the culture itself, right? But now what you see is people have started to sectionalize it, where there are people that learn just the names of the steps and the steps without understanding where it's from, without understanding the background, without understanding what it is. So for me, I guess a way of me saying, I get sometimes it might even sound very annoying, but I get very serious in having conversations about these styles, and I'm very, very quick to rebuke people that I know are doing the wrong thing. I usually, because I love to study a lot, and for me, it's like if I have a conversation with you and it's clear you do not know what you're talking about, for me, that we have a problem.
Yep.
Red flag.
We would fight, like 100%. So I guess for me, it's a thing of I do it on stage when I perform. If anybody has ever, has anybody seen me perform here
Yep.
before? Oh, wow. Okay, good. When I perform, I tend to combine speaking with teaching with performance because that's the Nigerian traditional way of sharing a culture, right? That's one way I do it. The reason I do it that way is because it's very important to understand what you see, especially with the term Afro dance, because Afro dance now is just told as a series of dance steps of things you just learn and you do it on the street. But that's not what it is. It's much deeper than that. The second way is conversations such as this, where it's really important that before people go in to learn a dance or teach a dance or whatever they do with Afro dance specifically, because that's the conversation, is that you understand why it is called that, you understand what it is, and before you go out to speak on it or teach about it, you really, really know what you're talking about. Because growing up, when I learned traditional dance, I learned it in Osun State, Ede to be precise. Now, these people, thank you very much, yes. Now, these people, the way they dance is different. They don't, first of all, they never come early to rehearsals. Second of all, when they create, right, they're all together like this, and one person starts singing about yesterday. Another person starts singing about how they could not farm, and these are how the songs come about. So for them, it's literally live, and it's strong. And when they dance as well, it's an interpretation of what that is, which is the purest, beautifulest form of, a lot of things you see in Afro dance right now. And then to come here and see somebody just going, and you're like, bros, how fun, huh? You know, it is very annoying. So I would say my way, it's when I perform, I do that. Sorry. And also when we have conversations like this, because for me, it's a really important thing. And I do not want to, I get very passionate about stuff like this. And then I just try to say it very nicely, you know. Funny enough, yesterday I just made a video. It's funny. 2 days ago, someone came to me and said, "Oh, he was talking to his boss, and his boss was like, 'Oh, what is Afro dance?'" And then yesterday, I made a video 2 minutes long. If you have my Instagram, I'll post it today, talking about what Afro dance is. You understand? Yeah. So I'll stop there.
Thank you so much. We have a few minutes left. We can take one question. So if there are any questions, we have one right here. Can we get a mic? Yes, thank you so much. Thank you to our wonderful volunteers and also our event manager that's been running around making sure everyone is mic'd up. Yes.
Hi. Oh wow, everyone's looking at me now. Okay. No, I just wanted to make a quick comment with regards to what Favour said about the nature of dance from where you are from, and I had a question for Steven, if that's okay. So it's just it really struck me because right now I am trying really hard to get a ballroom scene. So if you're familiar with voguing and stuff within Ireland and stuff, and it's yes, clock it. But basically, it just really struck me how a lot of the spirit of dance moves through the diaspora, because when you were saying it's like this is literally what people were doing yesterday, it just really struck me how when you're performing hands, it's like you have to be telling a story with your hands, and it could be something as mundane or as what you were doing yesterday or putting on your makeup or anything like that. So I really, really think that is such a beautiful echo of the African diaspora, because of course ballroom was created by Black and brown communities in New York, and I just thought that was such a beautiful point of relation, from two different sides of the dance spectrum, but all collected in Pan-Africanism essentially. So thank you so much for that little it gave me a little sparkle so and for Steven, I just had a question, because in my ballroom work and stuff, I work independently as independent producer and stuff, and if anyone is familiar with the 2024 Open Up Report by the Arts Council, which I think echoes a lot of the problems that Black artists in general, and production is an art, but I won't get into that. And it talks about all the difficulties that artists like myself have from the favoring of more experienced artists over emerging artists, the lack of networks for artists of color, and especially when I'm trying to create a scene of a dance form that isn't traditional, that some of the panelists touched on. So what is your advice for someone like me, trying to get into the production world and the arts world, and yeah.
So just thinking as you were talking there, I just want to go back to the question that I was asked earlier, because a tiny revision on it, because this is something we discussed on our call the other day, is so at the top end, in terms of production, I think there's an awareness of the importance of diversity, but there's an issue, a huge issue in terms of at the grassroots level and getting people through. And we were talking about advertising specifically because advertising as a creative industry is a very viable career financially, but it's near impossible to get into in so much as anecdotally we were talking about, if you fancied working as an advertising creative, you will need to have your degree, you'll need to do a master's, and then you'll need to probably take an unpaid or very low paid internship for 2 years or such. So what kind of people can do that? It's like a very narrow group. And that creates a problem with diversity at the other side, because now you only have one group of people who are in creating things, and that's something that we have to fight. Advice, I mean, I think one of the greatest ways to fight the issues is by supporting groups like GORM and turning up, and not to kind of give a definitive answer. Like there's graft and chipping away at it all the time involved, and like I would hope you're asking me a question now. I'm going to go and take my mic off. Like let's have a chat. And this opportunity today is about networking. And I was saying that to Favour earlier. It's like we've never met each other before today, but like who knows where that could lead. We've got to try and realize and then break down where those silos are, and if that's a silo between, as I said, commercial, film and TV are all very different, but also whether that's someone of color trying to get into production, but it's like the old boys club of whoever look after it. Like it's going to take conscious work for people like you and me fighting against that together.
Find me happy.
Absolutely, yeah.
Thank you so much. With that, we'd like to wrap up the panel. Can we have a round of applause for our wonderful and fly panelists for sharing their truths and their wisdom? Please grab them, have those conversations with them. Thank you so much. It's been a pleasure.